Hi guys, talking about chapter number 5, which is the last mover advantage. Now, I was just going through this chapter and it's really kind of very much into economics. Uh, People who are well versed with economics, they will find it very easy, but the one who are not much well versed with economics, have never studied economics, they will find a bit kind of different because there are some technicalities which are there, but I'll try to make it as easy as possible for you. So the title name is Last Mover Advantage. Now, as you listen to the title, that is very much catchy, right? Generally, you hear first mover advantage, but here the title is Last Mover Advantage, which makes a lot of sense. I'll try to touch upon this obviously by the end of this video. But let's begin. So, as I said in the last video, right, in the next chapter, we'll be covering how exactly to create a monopoly. But is what we'll be discussing here. If you've not watched the last three videos, please go and watch the video. I've given the summary and I've covered the first four chapters of this book. So let's begin. So here, basically, as I said, I'll repeat it again. Basically, the author has given a recipe of how to create a monopoly and what are the general characteristics of a monopolistic company, right? um, Moving forward, right, the one biggest trait of being a monopoly, whether if it's in any any segment, the only thing is, I'm sure you would be guessing a lot of things, that having a very different scenario, very uh, maybe profitable business, or having a complete new idea, making a disruption, etc. But the bottom line comes to finance, hard cash, right? And here, what the author says, the great business is defined by its ability to generate cash flows in the future. Very basic, very common thing. I mean, that is, I mean, very basic thing, right? But many startups do not, know this, or many people do not follow this. They just go into revenues, how much revenue they are doing, and how much um, people they are, connecting with, and etc. The whole point is, in future, in a decade or so, is your company worth it? Will your company be existed in coming next 10 years, given your business model, right? Though currently you may be loss making, but given your overall scenario, given your projection, will you be able to generate cash flows in next 10 years? So that's one very important thing. So the author has given a lot of examples over here. Maybe LinkedIn, Amazon, and his own company PayPal. He has basically, when we talk about his own company PayPal, when he started, in after a year or so, they were not profitable, but the only thing is their revenue were doubling over the year. And given the you know the projection of their revenues, right, which were increasing over the years, and no one else was competing at that time. Hence, while projecting that, the author expected that given current scenario, in next 10 years they will for sure be profitable. And since they were of that opinion, they had a lot of value in their business. Similarly, he talks about LinkedIn. When the LinkedIn went, you know um, uh, public in the market, right, when it was listed, its valuation was like nearly 12 times that of a newspaper company, that is the Economic Times. And like, the Economic Times was already in business from decades, centuries. Still, people had put more value, they had more expectation, more, they saw more growth in a new startup which has hardly very small track record compared compared to the newspaper company, right? But they saw the future. Given this projection, will the company be able to generate cash flows for coming like 10, 15 years? And that is what happened. And now you see LinkedIn is doing, I mean, it's completely monopolized, right? So that is what he has talked about. Now, moving to the characteristics of the monopoly, there are four characteristics the author has, uh, you know, discussed here. The first one is proprietary technology. Um, any company, like the whole point here is it's focused on the tech business. Now proprietary technology, for example Google, right? When Google just began, it created its homegrown algorithm, which gave results which were 10x better than the erstwhile search engines like Yahoo, Bing, etc. Right? They were at least 10 times better than that. So the point here is not just create a proprietary technology, but create such a technology which is at least 10x better than the current competitors. So it will, you will have an edge over them. So there is no competition there. If you're at least that better than your competitors, then there is no competition, right? I mean, there is a huge gap between your performance and their performance. Their performance would be less, and they would even take a lot of time to catch up. But given you have that proprietary technology, which is better than those, so you have an advantage over there. Next is network effects. The basically here is your network is your net worth, right? So first he says that whenever you kind of start a startup, first start with your community nearby, start with the networks you know, and the more amount of people you know nearby, you can trust them, you can apply your ideas over them, you can use you can ask them to use your product, right? Once the subset of like your friends is successful, if the trial is successful on them, then you can kind of expand, which we'll talk about in the third point, that is economies of scale. Any startup which wants to level up or wants to be profitable, it has to reach the economies of scale. Now this is a economic term. So basically economies of scale is per unit. When you produce, there is a least amount of expense, which includes a fixed expense and the variable expense. It is at the least amount whenever you produce product. So if you reach such a quantity, right? If you're producing, suppose 10 quantities, the cost would be 100, and that would have maybe 50 fixed cost and 50 variable cost. But if you see the 50, which is the fixed cost, right? So this fixed cost will remain fixed. Now if you go to 100, right? If you produce 100, the fixed cost will remain 50 only, but the variable cost will move, right? So this reduces your overall expense. The fixed cost will remain constant, as I said. So this reduces your expense. Now a point where your overall expense is the least when you produce product is called the economies of scale. Moving next is branding. I don't need to explain. I mean, you very well know what branding is. But the whole point why I want to discuss here is there is one very good thing which has the author has said, no technology company can be built on branding alone. Now, while giving an example here, so he has compared Google and Yahoo again. So Yahoo kind of tried to revive its overall business in 2012, seeing that Google has already taken the majority of market share. They tried to uh, you know, kind of reinvent, not reinvent exactly, but to rebrand themselves or remarket by kind of changing their logo, and maybe they acquired some cool startups like Tumblr. But the whole point was their product was still not at the par with Google. So branding is waste until your product has any value in that. If your product does not have value, branding doesn't make sense at all. So these are the four characteristics. Now, moving towards building a monopoly, uh, very quickly, these are four points. First, it start small and monopolize. So here is the same thing which I discussed in network effects. Basically, whenever you start any startup, don't directly rush into the market. First, test it among your closed netted groups. If it's working great, if it's not working great, you can you can keep the feedback loop open, and once it becomes better, then you can kind of expand it. Now, which takes to second point, which is scaling up. Scaling up basically here means either scaling up into different geographies or into different segments. Suppose, maybe let's talk about Amazon, right? Amazon first was a bookstore. Once they were a bookstore, they were very successful into that. They kind of expanded to different markets. Once they were even better in those, now they are the, they are the e-commerce giant in the world. You can find anything and everything on Amazon. So that's the point. Third thing is don't disrupt. At least when you are a very small, um, you know, company in the market, when you just begin, don't just try to give a direct hit to the current competitors. They will just get, they will just get kind of triggered. Okay, someone is there, that's a threat, and we need to kind of crush the new startup. So don't directly compete with them, but is to work in tandem with them, or maybe do not, like, the point here is to do not bring yourself in such a limelight that they get to know, okay, someone is directly into the my competitor and they are not that big, we'll directly go and crush them, or maybe directly acquire them, right? That's the whole point. So here the what he says that avoid competition as much as possible. The business model of PayPal was such that they were not kind of directly, taking away someone's business, but they were working in tandem with different companies, so which made the payment more better, right? The payment, they were, what was PayPal? PayPal was just email payment company when it just began, right? So their product was not directly competitor of anyone at that time, but it kind of helped other, others, participants in the market to generate more revenue, which kind of helped them. So there was no as such a competitor for them. So these are the some of the three points which I wanted to bring. Now the last thing is, which is the title of this chapter, last more advantage. The last will be the first. Now, who the point here is, it's not always that if you've moved first, you will just, you will be always dominant in the market. It's not like that. It's a tactic. Okay, I'll just move first, but it's not a sure shot thing that if you moved first, then you'll always remain the monopoly in the market. The author has said even if you move last, but if your product has that, great, alpha thing or something which is at least 10x better than all the other competitors, even if you're 10x, even if you're the last mover, you will disrupt them. So that is what the author has said. First, collect all the data, what the competitors are doing, and okay, just have a look. Okay, they are here, my product is this great. Now if I, even if I'm last, if I go now, I can completely disrupt the market. So that's the point. So that brings to the end of this chapter. Hope you like the video. Let me know in comment section if you have any, suggestions. Thank you.